Howdy y'all. Haven't done one of these in a minute and decided I wanted to just do one. Just as a little bit of a fleet update on the NCM fleet and how things are going. This past month was a little bit of an expensive one, primarily because of Graybird here. Graybird decided that at the beginning of the month, her intake manifold was going to crack and leak antifreeze all over the front of the engine. So, how to get that fixed? My dad and I actually did that one ourselves to save some money because we knew that was going to be an expensive one. And for the most part, it was easy on. I guess as easy as that job can be. Because you have to remove a lot of crap to get to taking the actual manifold off. Also did a tune-up on this, put new plugs in, new coil packs, did an oil change, put new air filter on, new fuel filter, the works. Put a new belt on, new belt tensioner, new idler pulley. Pretty much everything and anything that are just basic wear items that aren't that expensive to switch out and all the other good stuff. So she's back on the road finally. I don't know why my camera keeps zooming in or keeps trying to focus on things. I was having trouble with it earlier and I don't know what's up. But yeah, so after all that, she's back on the road. And then that same week that her intake manifold cracked, my parking cable snapped. So I had to get that fixed. That I did take to the mechanic because I couldn't find any videos on how to do that myself. And when I opened up my repair manual that I have for this car, it's just straight up tells you not to attempt it yourself and take it to a mechanic. And because I couldn't find anything else to tell me what to do, I just took it to them. It was only $200. I already paid for or it was actually $100. I already bought the cable and stuff, which I bought it for $25. So it was, $125 thereabouts for that. So that really wasn't horrendous. And then I also put on new hood struts because those are failing. The hood kept trying to fall down on me when I had the hood up. So, yeah, Graybird had quite a few things break on her this past month, or just wear out and stuff. She has a lot of new parts. Hopefully that'll last me quite a while. She's got 152,000 miles on it. So, nothing too crazy. For Crown Victoria, that's barely broken in. Blue is still doing good. Ever since she had her little hiccup in the springtime, she's been running decent. Hasn't really had any major issues. So that car's been doing good. So, with the fleet, nothing too crazy, just a lot of, basic maintenance, one major repair, one minor one. And, about 3 weeks out from the repair, and so far Graybird's been doing okay. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried about that one. And just FYI, guys, I'm about to enter an area with sketchy cell service. So if it freezes, give it like, a minute, refresh, and it should come back. Because it's just this little valley here. But sometimes I don't lose it, sometimes I do. There's no rhyme or reason. I don't understand. Just FYI. Stream's not ending or anything like that. Just refresh if you need to refresh. If it doesn't come back right away or whatnot. So, but yeah, so the fleet's doing okay. Got Graybird, I think, to a good area. So when I go down to Florida in the winter, I can drive her down there with no real worries. Still have her checked out by the mechanic before I go, though. That's one of the things I always do. Because driving old cars, even if your car's new, you should just take it to the mechanic and let them do a good once over. Make sure that everything's in, okay shape and nothing's just going to fall off when you're going down the highway at 75 miles an hour. So, yeah, and I guess I'll start transitioning into Maryland's new traffic laws that are going to go into effect here. I'm waiting to get into the meat and potatoes until I get to the top of this hill here, because then I'll be out of the area that's sketchy, cell service wise. But there's 3 primary law changes that are going into effect here on October 1st, so 2 days from now. For whatever the reason, the state of Maryland, that's the day that they usually have new laws go into effect. It's either July 1st or October 1st. I don't understand why. That's just what they do. But now that we're out of the dead zone area, one of the big changes that Maryland has done is they have updated the reckless driving. Previously in the state of Maryland, reckless driving was a payable citation. So if you were issued a reckless driving citation, you didn't have to go to court. There was no jail time. You wouldn't even get arrested for it. You could just simply take the citation, go to the courthouse and pay it, and that's all you had to do. You still got a crap ton of points. But other than the points and the monetary fine, there was no other repercussions government-wise. I mean, you would get your insurance rates and stuff would jack sky high and stuff, but that's private, not governmental. But going forward, as of October 1st, reckless driving will now be a mandatory court appearance. So if you get charged with reckless driving, you will have to go to court, and you could face up to 6 months in jail and or a $1,000 fine. That is probably the biggest change, because I mean, like I said, reckless driving was just a payable citation for years, and now you can actually go to jail for it in the state of Maryland. They've also reclassified reckless driving. Previously, reckless driving was only the willful disregard for the safety of persons and property. Now it includes the willful, if you're maximum speed limit by 30 miles per hour. So if you are on, let's say, Route 140 here in Carroll County, the posted limit is 55. Let's say you're doing 85 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. That is now a reckless driving charge in the state of Maryland, and you could get a reckless driving citation for it. Which, again, even though I'm saying the term citation, it's still a mandatory court appearance, and you have to go. You can't just pay. One of the other changes that they made is to aggressive driving. So previously, aggressive driving, and this part here didn't change, but you had to meet 3 different criteria, or 3 different other traffic offenses in order to be considered aggressive driving. And they were, if I remember correctly, obeying traffic signals, improper passing, driving on laned roadways, which that kind of groups a bunch of different things, but that's unsafe lane change, improper use of the lane, changing lanes were prohibited, etc. Speeding. I know I'm forgetting something else because it's a couple. Well, they've now broadened that, and it's now encompassing, failure to obey traffic control device, failing to obey a stop sign or yield sign. And that was one of the other ones. Failure to yield the intersection right away, so that like a through highway. If I ran the red, stop sign there or something like that. Now it's any stop sign. If you're driving a diesel truck and you modified it so you can blow exhaust out, if you're blowing exhaust onto other people on purpose, that's considered aggressive driving. Improper passing of a bicycle, so not giving them 3 feet, throwing something at them. For you motorcyclists out there, lane splitting is now considered one of those violations that could lead you to aggressive driving. And this was something that I personally was shocked that wasn't already part of aggressive driving, and that is passing in a no passing zone. So like right here, if I decided to go around this Lincoln on the double yellow, that wasn't considered aggressive driving. Now, if I had gone around him on the right and drove off the roadway to pass him, then yes, that was considered aggressive driving still. That was one of the other ones I forgot. That was one of the original ones that I forgot. But, and then, and tailgating too, Tailgating was considered aggressive driving. Failing to, since we just went through one, failing to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. That's now one of the charges that can lead to aggressive driving. If a car is already stopped waiting for a pedestrian to cross that crosswalk, that's a separate violation. That in of itself, or if I pass them, that is in of itself is another charge. So essentially, if you fail to, if there was a person crossing back there and a car had stopped and I went around and just blew through the crosswalk, that's 2 of the charges right there. Actually, that's the 3, because there's a center turn lane there. That's part of the driving on lane roadways. So that right there would have that could get me an aggressive driving charge now. So that's one. So that's a huge change that they just made. God, what are you freaking doing, man? That's like some of the really big changes that they've done with aggressive driving and so forth. And then the final big one that they did is when it comes to the speed cameras. They've now upped, so previously speed cameras, I think some of the jurisdictions had a little bit more leeway than others. Generally speaking, a speed camera citation was around $40. I think Baltimore City, they could be as high as 70, I think, sometimes. I don't know. I never personally received one, so I never really paid attention to that, to be honest. But now, speed camera citations can, if you're going, I think it's like 30 miles over the limit, can catch you $425. So they've now changed, and it's a tier. I think for like 12 to 15 over the limit, it's still $40 or thereabouts. And then for 15 to 20, it's like 70, something like that. And then it just goes up from there. So that's another big change that they just did, which, like I said previously, it was only $40. And I guess if you look at it this way, It'll also make it worth it to go after, out-of-state drivers that way. Because, if someone gets a $40 speeding ticket on 695 going through the construction zone and they don't pay it, is the state really going to put the effort into going after them? No. But if they owe the state $425 plus whatever the late fees are, yeah, that might turn into something that the state's worth going after and putting liens on against you, even if you're out of state. Taking you to civil court, whatever. So that's another one of that's the 3 big changes that are coming up. And to be honest, I'm mostly excited for the aggressive driving one and the reckless driving one, for that matter. That has been a huge problem in this area ever since COVID, really. Ever since COVID, aggressive driving and reckless driving in general have just gone through the roof. I mean, when I used to commute down to Baltimore City on a regular basis, I never got passed. No one would ever pass me in a no passing zone. If I was in a passing zone, yeah, I got passed all the time, because I wasn't really the fastest driver. I'm not the slowest either, but I'm not the fastest. So, in the passing zones, I would get passed. Nowadays, though, in the past, 6 months, I've been passed probably 5 times on a double yellow. Or have witnessed it. Someone going the opposite direction. Or it was too risky of a pass or something like that. And it's like, I never had that problem, and now it's all over the place. So yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to see those changes, and hopefully, what the hell was that? Just sworn I just heard someone get hit. Weird. Anyway, it was probably that truck and trailer right there. He probably hit a pothole or something on the other side. Anyway, but yeah, so that was that. I'm actually genuinely kind of excited for that, because it's something that has been well overdue and something that needs to be addressed. Because probably for the majority of people, the most dangerous thing that they do on a regular basis is get behind the wheel of a car, or just being in a car in general. Because, these things are, this Crown Victoria weighs 4,000 pounds. I'm driving a 2-ton missile at 60 miles an hour. If I'm driving recklessly and aggressively on purposely cutting people off, causing crashes, causing wrecks, causing people to have to swerve and avoid me and stuff like that, that's just going to cause problems. And people need to be held accountable for that. It's been way too lenient in this state for way too long. And there's one for you. Clear. Yes, I will be able to. Oh, shocker. This lane turns left too, Dingleberry. So you cut me off when you didn't even need to cut me off too. So that's great. People are just, that's a classic example of someone that deserves just to get a citation all day long. Unsafe lane change, Now that's something else I would love to see them address, and that's making signaling a lane change required in the state of Maryland. That's actually not a requirement. In the way that our state law is written, it just simply says that you can use a turn signal to indicate a lane change. It doesn't require you to use one. I think we're probably one of the few states that's like that. It's like, I know in Pennsylvania it's required to use a lane or signal the lane change. In fact, in Pennsylvania, if I have my turn signal on for too long, I can get pulled over for that. So, yeah. But it is what it is. So, alrighty. Well, I'm getting to my destination here, so I'm probably going to wrap it up real quick. Just wanted to do that quick little live stream, give some updates on, the fleet, how the fleet's doing, and some of the new laws that are going to affect here on October 1st. And frankly, I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see if how many people actually get charged with this and are actually like getting jail and stuff like that. In fact, they'll probably do it on their way home. So, yeah. We'll see what happens. So, alright, I guess I'm going to sign off here. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.